from Green Bay. Good morning to you, Bob. You say what? Bob?
Just so you know, I vote both sides of that. Okay, I voted Democrat in the past. I voted Republican recently. So what I want to really say is I agree with Tim that called in earlier, but unfortunately he got disconnected. Must have been bad phone lines. But what I really I'm scared about, because I have three daughters, two in college. One has her big girl job down in Madison, and my wife's an RN. We're both middle class workers trying to do the best.
Go ahead, Bob.
We're doing the best we can. But what scares me is the terms buttercups, knuckleheads, fool's gold, scare tactics, Tom, Dick, and Harry, tariffs. That scares me.
Scares you in what manner? It scares you in what manner?
It scares me that the left is brainwashing our youth with these scare tactics. It reminds me.
Well, Bob, just one thing. We've been talking about Tom, Dick, and Mary. First of all, it's not Harry on this show for years, and all we're talking about is middle class America and what interests they have in and the problems they face with their middle class budget and their expenses. And we've been outlining that budget, the cost of rent, the taxes they pay, the utilities they pay, the daycare they pay for, the health care costs they have, and how it is that it puts them in the hole. And so that there needs to be some attention paid to them in terms of figuring out what's wrong with our economy that they aren't sharing as they should share. And actually, most of our show and most of the content of our show over time has been focused just on that, okay? And don't you agree that your daughters in middle-class America have a paycheck-to-paycheck issue that makes it very hard for them?
Well, absolutely. I mean, granted, one has a big girl job in Madison. The other two are still in college.
Yeah, but I mean that paycheck to paycheck thing. When you analyze why they live paycheck to paycheck, which is what we tried to do, it ends up being a bunch of expenses they have. Some of them have a relationship to government, healthcare costs, and the costs of that being a substantial piece of that.
So go ahead, Sandy.
And rent and other things that are subject to being affected by government policy. So that's why we talk. It's not scaring.
Yeah, so what makes you think these are scare tactics? Do you think that there aren't people who are struggling, man, in this society? If you and your wife aren't, God bless you, you're fortunate. But there are far too many people who aren't. That's not scare tactics. Those are facts.
Okay, can I get a word?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, we are a struggling middle class family. Okay, that you wouldn't let me finish. But government has nothing to do with rent prices. Nothing.
Well,
Kamala wanted that, but no, that you guys give this line of crap that Trump's bad, the Republicans are money, money, money. That's absolutely not true. And what really set me off, I wasn't going to call in until I heard somebody say, hang the flag upside. No. Can I finish, please? Is hang the flag upside down. That is a slap to every veteran that has served this country. What I'd like to say, from my point of view, what if I would hang the pride flag upside down? What does that mean?
So listen. So the things you are saying, clearly you are upset, you are frustrated when people push against things that Republicans. If I told you how many times Donald Trump and Republicans have said and done things that frustrate me, I would be a wealthy man. So put on your big boy pants. And so because you guys, Republicans, things don't go your way. Do you know how many times many of us were frustrated to hear, especially Donald Trump and others? We had Ron Johnson on these lines several weeks ago, and I asked him if he was willing to accept the outcome of the election. He said, it depends. They asked Donald Trump, it depends. So it's easy for you guys to try to point at things that you claim that Democrats are doing that frustrates you. But I can tell you, if we put together a list of all the different things that have happened and what we've heard from Republicans, they would far outdistance anything that you're talking about.
But this is an interesting call, though, because there was an article in the Wall Street Journal this morning, or a discussion of the fact, and it was written by a fellow from Minneapolis, who talked about how he and his wife were voting against themselves, against the other party, and not for themselves, that it was easier to vote against things than it was to vote for things. And I think that's the case for many, many people. And that's why I brought up early in the show the fact that I thought that in many respects it was the Democratic brand that people were voting against, and that people who are voting against them have an image of the Democratic brand that is upsetting to them. And I think, Bob, you're saying that right now, that basically you're upset by the things that are said and done by people who would ascribe to themselves as being liberals, and that it upsets you enough that you're really voting against them as much as you're voting for some policy that the Republicans are standing for. Isn't that correct?
Sandy, that's perfectly said. I appreciate that. I really do.
That can't be a badge of honor, man.
No, but it isn't a question of being a badge of honor. These are the facts that I'm saying that the Democratic Party needs to address, because many people in the electorate, when they are talked to, you will find out that they are in many respects voting against the other side as much as they are voting for themselves.
So, Sandy, I don't know how that can be. So people who vote against the other side and facts don't matter to them.
Well, but no, they have a perception. And these people who came out of the polling booths who said, I voted this way because I thought America was going in the wrong direction, are talking about the fact that they think that other side presents to them a problem in their mind that suggests that if they're in power, it's going to go some direction.
So Democrats can say the exact same thing about Republican policies and Donald Trump.
They do.
And so that can't, to me, it's hard for me to accept the fact that people, because they feel that way, that somehow that's factual, that stuff is backed by any facts.
But you understand, I was a trial lawyer,
right.
Okay? Perception is fact, okay? Bob's perception that causes him to vote from the standpoint of third parties looking at the vote is a fact, okay? It's not that it's necessarily an accurate portrayal of what liberals stand for, or whether they should be something that people should be upset about. The fact is that people are upset about it, or that people are repelled by it, or people are motivated by it. And these are the kind of facts that we have to take into consideration when we're formulating messaging, when we're formulating policy, when we're trying to communicate to people. If you want to communicate to someone, you can't have them start out by thinking that there's something basically wrong with you.
So, Sandy, there are two sides to that coin.
Absolutely.
So the Democrats who see what they see from conservatives, from conservative media, and why so many Democrats were frustrated with what they saw and voted clearly against all of that, because they're saying, this just makes no sense to us. This is not rooted in anything that makes sense. And now we're supposed to understand the other side of this?
Well, yeah.
Like Bob and what Bob is saying, which to me is really nonsense.
Well, like I said, it all depends on whether we want to be successful or not.
Right.
If we want to ignore the realities of how people are thinking, what I'm saying basically is that in some respects, politics is a negative smell test, and the people who smell the worst don't do well. And for some reason in this last election, Democrats smelt worse than Republicans.